Hello. Ugh. Hi. That's dangerous. Kia ora, my name is Eleanor. I am an independent producer here in Wellington, Aotearoa. I've been producing under my company, Mulled Whine Productions, for the last 3.5 years, and I also sometimes collaborate and sometimes work for other companies and independents as well. So it's been a real pick and mix of jobs over the last 3.5 years, and I have been a part of somewhere around 55 seasons and tours across Aotearoa and internationally a little bit as well. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of stuff, and that's a lot of people. That's just over 200 independent artists, or well over 200 independent artists actually. And it's been a ride, and every single show is markedly different and has different needs and wants and different audiences to reach out to, and I bloody love the job, but I've learned a lot along the way and I've made some mistakes. So this is just a cute morning coffee about Eleanor's mistakes. At the end of the day, I see my role mainly as the person looking after the team, and then the team look after the creative decisions. And I think that that's a really important thing to do, because if you've got a well looked after team, you're going to have a well looked after work. Many people see a producer role as either like a motherly type role or a super cold business minded CEO, and I don't think either of those is quite right. I think a producer of a theatre work in particular definitely needs a combination of the two, because we work in the industry of emotions, so we need to look after each other's emotions, and we need to look after each other's well-being, both mentally and physically, whilst on the job. So part of the health and safety responsibility of being a producer is making sure that your team feel fairly treated, well looked after, and like they're capable of completing the work with the capacity that they have. What does taking care of your team look like when you're often not in the room? Many producers are doing, whilst rehearsals are going on or whilst development is going on, they're doing lots of unseen work outside of the room that couldn't happen if they were in the room 100% of the time. So how do you look after your team responsibly whilst not being physically there 100% of the time? I think the first thing to consider is transparency. So being really transparent with your team about the financial situation of the work, what you're doing to make sure that it is financially successful or at least well looked after, and what the future of the work looks like as collectively decided, and the steps that you're going to take to make sure that everybody gets there. Sometimes transparency can feel a little stink when you've got bad news to share. My favourite method of dealing with that scenario is to solve the problem before it's a problem, but that's not always possible. So if you don't get the funding that you want, it's to go out and find something else. But if you cannot guarantee that, I would highly suggest being honest with your team in the interim, because fair remuneration is a huge part of what's lacking in our industry, and if you can't secure that, it may not necessarily be your fault, but you need to let everybody know. It can feel super stink to be like, hey guys, just a fun email this morning, we didn't get the funding, I'm gonna try this, I'm gonna try that, but there's no promises. Like, that's the facts. That's the cold hard truth. And then being emotionally available for whatever response they come back with. Another top tip from Eleanor's bag of mistakes is to only offer what you can actually provide. So saying anything you need when you don't have the time, the capacity, or the resource to give that person literally anything they need is not fostering a trusting and transparent relationship there. I'd also just in general be very careful with everybody's time. So I really like to timeline out what kind of availability and work would be required from each person before making a budget, so I can then make a budget that reflects fair remuneration. And also when I'm offering a job, I can be honest about what kind of time it could take from a person's life, other jobs, and all of that stuff. Because honestly, making a good budget is taking care with your team and your project. That is your job as a producer, and that is a way that you can take care. Being good at your job is looking after the people around you, and I don't think that should ever be overlooked. If you've set a hardline budget on something and you're about to push it over, just singing out, hey, we've almost reached the budget for this, we need to slow down, we need to stop this, and we need to do that. It feels, once again, it feels a little bit funny, but it is looking after everybody on board, because spending money that you don't have is not looking after your team, because it'll either eat into the production values that you want to achieve, so the kind of the goals that you want to set for the show as a whole, or it eats into the fair remuneration for your team. And finally, once you've gathered together an amazing team, you've got a budget, you've got a goal, and you've got your sights set on a season, you're going to start interacting with the public in the marketing capacity, in the sponsorship capacity, all of those wonderful avenues where we get to reach outside of our little theatre bubble. And something to consider at this point is to listen to how your team want to be perceived. When you're navigating all of these negotiations and all of this publicity, how does your team want to be perceived? What is the thing about the project or about their career that's really important to them, and how can you lift that up? Because that feels really nice when you get it right, and it also means that your project and your cooperative or your company or whatever stands out from everybody around you, because you've got an uplifting, incredible story to tell that's like made everybody feel very good. Listening to your team, listening to what they want to achieve out of the show, listening to how they want to be perceived by the outside world can help you make really clear decisions in terms of budget and publicity and timeline and future seasons. And it's a huge collaborative, sometimes quite emotional process, but I highly recommend doing some producing, because it's really great to have those organizational skills in the bag, build those relationships outside of our industry, and just keep the arts ticking. You are ensuring the sustainability and just the possibility of creating work in this kind of unique financial environment. It's frequently undermined as being dry and boring, but with interesting and vibrant people on the job, I think it can be really cool, and it's got a sense of community and collectivity that I really enjoy. And that's the environment that I like working in. I like working collaboratively and collectively and creating whole new pieces out of entirely different teams again and again and again. The repertoire just keeps growing, and so does my list of friends, you know? What a cheese ball. That's how I know I'm up for the gig. Thanks for hanging out with me, team. The batteries ran out twice during this. It's gonna be a shambles. But I'm glad to have spent this time with you. Cheers.